Is it?
This is Kyle McBride, I believe. Yeah, it's Kyle McBride.
Another spinner. Struggling to get away from that hairpin. Yes, car number 30, the Motorsport Ireland Rally Academy Fiesta of Kyle McBride and Liam McIntyre, another one of the Irish crews. And in fact, even though this is a round of the, let's get it right, the European Rally Challenge? No, it's a European series. We had a couple of Italian crews come over last year, but this year's entry list comprises purely of GBR and IRL. If you look down the entry list. And interesting to see that Motorsport Ireland have a rally academy supporting Kyle. Here is Darren. Oh, Darren. There's me building you up. Matthew Daniels alongside on the notes, and I was going to say how very neat Darren looked coming up through the hairpins. He's another victim of this little left-hander second hairpin as they're coming out.
It's always an immaculately prepared car, that one though. Absolutely stunning example of a Mark II Escort.
There is a prize, remember, being awarded at each of the Protyre events for the best turned out car. We did discuss it last night. I do know the winner, but I'm not going to tell you just yet because I don't want to spoil the surprise. But the trophy will be handed over at service in Aberystwyth as the weekend goes on. This then should be Neil Williams in car 25, another Escort. Neil with Eric Davis alongside.
Another spin just there. See, it's the, we were saying before, like the neat and tidy versus the big handbrake. I can see why the approach might be on the handbrake, but it's proven at the moment to be the slower way, just with the conditions as they are.
And yet he was tiptoeing his way through that right-hander as they come into our view.
It is a tight hairpin, actually. You know, from the recce, I imagine it's been noticed. It was quite a tight corner, so obviously the conditions are subtly different between the recce and today, so hence causing these issues. But yeah, it's like I said before, small errors, big consequences at the moment.
Another Darian coming down towards us. This should be 26, another Protyre competitor, Wayne Jones and Elgin Davis. Ooh, that is really slippery now.
Very much so. When you see them from up here, these diamonds really are low to the ground, very wide, so great for the fast dry tar. But yeah, when it's getting as slippery as this, maybe not so.
Did you see the way it changed direction just coming around the hay bale? It's a little car, it's a very lightweight car, and it just came around very, very nicely.
It did. It's surprising to see. You know, you see these big R5 or what appeared to look like big R5 cars in comparison, how nimble and how, like you say, quickly change direction.
This should be William Hill in the Rally 3. No, he's moved down, has he? Okay.
Williams changed or Will's changed to the R200 for this weekend.
Okay.
So he's running slightly further down the order. So we have Richard Cluse. Richard didn't have the best rallies last year, so hopefully this year has a better run on this event. Going to see him back out again in the championship.
Oh no, indeed. Photographers have all moved to that part of the sequence of hairpins because they're all getting the action as the cars spin out. Carl Williamson alongside Richard. Carl from my neck of the woods down in Swansea. Car 28 that was.
Is that what you call a commentator's curse? When I said I hope they'll go for a better run this year and then a little spin. Maybe I won't say it next time.
Yeah, the Murray Walkerisms. So Will Rowlands then potentially next, or how far have they dropped William down?
Oh, those double.
Unfair question. You put your phone away.
This does sound like a Mark II Escort though, so
it should be Brad Cole, I would have thought, or is it Will Rowlands?
Will Rowlands, it looks like.
flicker Mark II Escort around that hairpin. He says, having never driven on a rally, although I've co-driven a few. What do I know? He says, asking his driver colleague.
It's one thing I've never driven myself, actually, that is a proper Mark II Escort. So I mean, plenty of front-wheel drive, some four-wheel drive, so maybe that box needs to be ticked one day, but for now I think we'll stick front-wheel drive.
To be fair, we talked about it last night. We also talked about it before we went on air for the ceremonial start last night. You're building a maxi kit car. No, sorry, it's not a maxi kit car. It's a Nissan Micra kit car, which looks the business, I have to say, from pictures you've shown me.
Oh yeah, so we're building a 1400 Micra kit car, so not quite the spec of what the works are back in the day, but yeah, one for the Micra challenge that's been set up. So 1400 wide track. I've always wanted one, always loved them, so now is the time to get one built, and hopefully this time next year we'll be out there.
Spot on. This should be Brad Cole then, car 31, with Jamie Vaughan back alongside him. Another immaculately turned out car, I've got to say. Oh, Brad. Brad's had several co-drivers alongside him this year because Jamie's been on bannering duty on the WRC. So he's posting all sorts of exotic pictures on Facebook. Makes me long for the days, but he's enjoying himself, and whenever he's back in the UK, you can see him, even though he's a fairly recent dad, bless him. He's alongside Brad. So that was car 31, another Protyre entry. Brad hoping to take the fight to Darren Atkinson this year, but it's not to be. He's had quite a disappointing year for Brad. Not quite sure what he's planning to do for next year, whether he's going to stay with the Mark II or whether there's going to be another car in the mix. Who's this coming down the hill then? Potentially Gary Thomas and Linda Thomas, car 32. And we've not yet had the first of our road rallies. Gary Thomas picking his way around that hairpin, not falling into the same trap as others. Just a message about can I just update people on what's happening with 27, William Hill. As you heard Matt say earlier on, William's been reseeded. He's gone from the Rally 3 car that he'd entered. He was entered at 27. He's been reseeded. Do we know where William's running?
It looked like 43rd on the road, so a little bit further down. Yeah, it looks like from the Rally 3 to the R200, so yeah, I'm still sure he'll put in a good performance, though. He's, we know how fast Will can be.
Should be Ben Crumpany and Beamond in another Escort. Oh no, it's not. Potentially Rory McCann, car 34 it is. I think, from memory, he says, turning over the pages of the entry list, 112, actually not 112 cars on the entry list. The last car on the road is 112. There are gaps in that order. We've had a couple of cars withdrawn, and also interestingly, there is an entry left blank, number 42 for Craig. Our thoughts still very much with family and friends of Craig Breen, but 42 held empty in memory of Craig. But 112 is the last car through, and it'll be the MOD Defenders, the Land Rovers that we're used to seeing at the back end of the rallies.
So we're landing into car 36. Immaculate car.
And mostly driven around too.
Oh, look at that, yeah. Fantastic. The sound of that is lovely.
Should also mention from the entry, 28, no fewer than 28 of those entries are in the Protyre Championship, so a nice strong end to the year. As I was mentioning earlier on, if you are just joining us, we are on stage 2 of Rally Ceredigion. It is the first of 2 days, and the rally effectively a double header for points for the Protyre Championship. So this the penultimate round today, the final round of the championship tomorrow, considering that the event that was originally down to be the final round, which was on Otterburn, has been handed back to the military that date for their training. Car 37, this should be Rob Smith and Alan Cook. famous colours of the Escort, once driven by Asphalt. Jonathan Stepney, I'm being told, spun on stage 1. So Jonathan Stepney, where is he? Jonathan Stepney, car 58. Yeah, in the Clio. Yeah, but spun. The message we've had, he doesn't say that he's stopped, so just spun and continued, I'm assuming. Ooh, what's this? That's an interesting engine note. Darien?
No, this will.
Oh, yeah.
The Edwards.
Now it is Rhys Wynne-Davies and Gerwyn James. It's on the entry list as a Darien, but as we heard him coming down the hill, that definitely wasn't a Darien engine note. And that G3, I've not seen one of those around because they were fairly rare back in the day. It sounds lovely.
So there was an interest update from last night. So it was Lee Edwards and the Escort G3. That's got a fantastic engine note.
So it was Lee Edwards rather, was it?
Yeah, they had to change the driver.
Ah, right, okay. Instead of Rhys Wynne-Davies. Okay, should be Lee Hastings then through next, another Protyre competitor. Lee and Cole Hastings in the Impreza coming down the hill.
Lots of anti like that. I think maybe we should be very, very cautious.
Okay, he's pulling away cleanly enough, so maybe, as you say, just being just that little bit cautious coming down the hill towards us. Maybe he's got double caution in his notes or something for very good reason.
It might well be, or so with the amount of mud being pulled out, maybe there's been some of the moments that we don't know about before now, so just taking it steady. But as we've seen, if you get around here cleanly, there's lots of time to be had over others.
I should also mention that we do have 2 crews out today, myself and Matt Jackson on stage 2, and over on stage 3, which is probably about to start in a couple of minutes' time, it's Paul Woodford and Hugh Hunter. And so keep an eye on your favourite social media feed. And be careful, by the way, we've also heard that there are a number of spam feeds, so please be careful what links you click on. Either use the Protyre official Facebook page or the Rally Ceredigion page, or indeed the Special Stage Facebook page for your links to our live streams this weekend. Don't click on anything else, because potentially they'll take you somewhere harmful and you don't want to be there. Steve Nibbs this is, with Gerwyn Barry in another Impreza. Similar driving style. Oh, but he's been caught out by that second hairpin. He's off exactly where we thought, is he?
So that sounded like the Citroen C3, so it looks like Chris Ford. He's just hit just caught the bales there.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can carry on and get going again.
Damage
Brilliant.
that caused, yeah. I was talking to his co-driver Neil Coleman last night, of course, who is no stranger to us in the Protyre Championship. Another one of these lovely little Citroens. No damage caused by the looks of it.
No, that's great. It's like a beautiful looking car, and it would have been a shame to end there. So no good, no damage, just a few seconds lost. So I'm back on their way.
And more information coming in after stage 1. Car 33, which is Ben Crump, apparently pulled up after stage 1 with his bonnet up. Let me just quickly check. We've got an information WhatsApp group coming in. Let me just see what that information said. I just saw it. And Callum said spun on stage 1, which is an interesting one. Right, here we go. 33 stopped on the road section after stage 1, bonnet up. Oh, there we are. James lost 25 seconds, it's official. So when he spun just after seeing us, we thought about 30 seconds, it's about 25 in fact that James Williams lost when he was with us earlier. So, as I mentioned earlier, no car 42 in memory of Craig. Car 43, Anthony Eaton, and Ian Jackson in an R5 Plus. As I flip the page on my entry list. Oh, stalled on that third hairpin in the section, right at the end of this little short second stage of the rally. And you're very welcome to stay with us for the remainder of the fields through stage 2. But if you are wanting to watch and follow the leaders through the stages, then Paul is about to go live, or in fact may already be live, from the rally's third stage. It is quite a long one. It's a 17-miler from memory. So a nice gentle start to the rally in some ways, in others not so much. A 5.29 mile stage for Borth. This is 4.3 miles, this stage 2, and then a 17.1 mile stage at Cwmystwyth. Those 3 stages repeated this afternoon in a loop of 3, and then the 2 little half-mile stages around Aberystwyth itself this evening, starting at about 6:30, and we will be there. We'll bring you the town stage live. Maybe the word's getting back to service or to the competitors about that second hairpin. Mike English that was in the Rally 2 Fiesta, but a lot more respect I think being shown to the second, the uphill left-hand hairpin now in this little sequence that we're at towards the end of the stage. Just after they leave us, incidentally, after they've been through this little 2 hairpin section, there's an uphill sprint of a couple hundred yards, a third hairpin, and then it's another few hundred yards along a fairly flattish bit at the top of the stage up to the stage finish. Oh, Hugh, what are you doing? And off again. Hugh Jeffries and Avrina Jeffries in car 45, the Impreza, and off again. Making far more of that than he needed to.
I think that's one of those situations where, you know, when you've lost a bit of time, just eager to go, and then obviously you end up losing more. But get yourself calm, composed, and then back on your way.
Good to see Steve Ormond-Smith and Callum Young. What am I saying? It's good to see them. Not so good to see them do that as they come into our view. Yep, Steve Ormond-Smith, another one of our Protyre regulars. And having to go right the way round after that spin on the second hairpin. Say, Matt, a sympathetic round of applause from the spectators. I don't think there was much sympathy in that applause.
No, everyone does seem to be enjoying it here. But like I say, you know, everyone's here for a good watch, a bit of action, and it's it's fantastic to be on the stage side, isn't it? And on these are brilliant but also extremely tricky stages.
And the weather's helping as well.
Oh, absolutely. I believe here is Will Hill, as we talked about earlier. It is.
After last time out, but so running with car 27, well, the number 27 on it, but actually 47th on the road, so behind Steve Ormond-Smith. So we did have a query earlier on if somebody knew where Will was. There's your answer. He's just running out of position, running 47th on the road. So should be Mark Lennox and Claire Lennox next down towards us. So just to explain, you probably worked out the geography of it. The cars come up a long, fairly longish climb up to that white house where producer Wayne is picking up on the camera, and then quite a dirty, gravelly slot right down the hill, where we saw the Citroen have its moment a couple of minutes ago, which is cautioned, well known as a bit of a problem area for road rallies. And indeed it is. 47 Mark Lennox. Nicely done, Mark.
See, we were talking earlier about being road rally territory, and there you go, four-door Escort, a crew who've got plenty of road rally experience, and there you go, it shows.
I'm expecting more four-door Escorts as the day goes on. We were on the first stage last year, which was in the night time, which ran behind the industrial estate just outside Aberystwyth. One of the points we made at the start last night is that the organisers actually almost have an embarrassment of riches in terms of stages, because only one of the stages this year is the same as last year, and there were so many road rally Escorts in the dark, natural environment, but they're in the daylight this time.
That's it, I know, completely different being in daylight to the dark, but these go slightly wide. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a whole collection of different cars. But yeah, we're in proper road rally territory around here. I think there'll be a few surprises down the field.
48 is Harold Davis and Dorian Evans in an RS 1800. There's an awful lot of Mark II Escorts on the entry list. I do wonder how many of them are four-door road rally spec Escorts, and of course this is well-known road rally territory. Yeah. That noise you hear, by the way, is Matt looking at my entry list going, and not able to tell me what he's thinking.
It's just the variety of car. You know, I think what's great about rallies like this is just you've got absolutely everything. No matter what your interest is, there'll be something that you enjoy coming to see. It's brilliant.
Right handing, really slipping.
It seems to be changing to it. It wasn't happen and
and Sean Jones, that was, in the Wales Motorsport Escort, just again being caught out. And yeah, just looking down the hill towards that right-hander, you know, it's getting worse. More and more mud's being dragged out on the road, and that's just one corner on one little stage. You kind of wonder how bad things are or how bad things will be on that long stage, particularly second time through this afternoon.
That's it. We picked out a couple of bits on the way through this stage, didn't we? That was already a little bit muddy under the trees where the water had been running. But maybe they'll clean. It'll be this sort of corner where they're just nibbling away at the inside, pulling the mud out. So it'll be a completely different stage the second time through.
Right, who's this? Potentially Barry Stevenson Wheeler in another Escort with John Pickavans. Not a name I recognise. Car number 50 this should be. And around he goes.
Just for the stage, just looking at the track as the stage 3 is now live, so the guys will be, I imagine, on the live stream of stage 3 very soon.
As I mentioned, you've got a choice then. We are not quite halfway through the second stage of the rally, but stage 3 about to go live, so do please keep an eye on, particularly on Facebook for your alert. Paul and Hugh are about to go live for stage 3. We will be, once everybody's gone through on this second stage, we will be moving position to be back for stage 5 this afternoon. We're not covering stage 4, the short one, the really short one up at Borth. So we'll be back on for stage 5, and then Paul will have moved for stage 6, and then we'll all come together, all being well, back in Aberystwyth for the town stage this evening. William Mains, this should be in the Nova, yes it is.
So Will, a previous Protyre competitor, just into the grass on the outside, always has a very immaculate, it's a Nova or a Corsa or the collection of both, always well turned out and goes very well.
A bit more mud on it this time, I suspect. Of the uphill hairpin. We've had quite a few people off, including, if you weren't with us at the beginning of the live feed, James Williams in the Hyundai lost something like 25 seconds. First driver to be caught out, and the other bit of drama on this stage earlier on, which was Leon Evans, leader after stage 1, a puncture by the time he got to us, and quite a bit of time drop. So another Protyre competitor, 52 is Michael Harbour. Alongside him is Ian McDougall in a Mark II Escort. And we're in a run of Mark IIs now. We were talking about the variety of cars. It's always appealed to me when I'm doing these live streams that you've got the guys at the front end in the R5s and the Rally 2s and the rest of it. And then when you start getting down to this end of the leaderboard, you get some really, really interesting cars. And whenever we've not known anything about, you may have seen this if you've been watching the live streams, if we've not known anything about a car, if you ask the question, somebody out there watching, wherever they are in the world, will know the answer. It's fantastic. So if you don't know something, don't be afraid to ask. We'll check the live feed. In fact, I do need to check the comments on the live feed just to see what people are saying, and someone will have the answer for us.
Yeah, well, there is a couple of interesting ones that go down the end of the field. Is it a Gilburn or something like that?
Gilburn.
Is it? There we go. I don't think I've ever seen one, so here we get double the amount I've ever seen today. But I guess that's the beauty of rallying. You know, you can bring any car to most of our rallies, and it will be eligible. And it's, you know, unlike most other sports, you can enter if you a world championship event if you've got the right homologation or the right vehicle, or even the national section most of these events. So you can any car that you want to use, like to use, you can in rallying. It's what makes it one of the best pink cars, I think.
However, you've got to say it. 40, 50 years on, the number of Mark II Escorts still competing and still winning trophies is amazing. One car, one model of car. It's not even Escorts, it's Mark II Escorts.
He would have thought it that, you know, what was a shopping saloon turned out to be one of the most popular rally cars. I would say the most popular rally car, certainly in the UK, if not the planet. Although I wonder, the amount of Escorts versus Fiestas. There's been a number of Fiestas over the years now, hasn't there? All the M Sport built cars.
You see, this is where I say of loads of different versions of the Fiesta. So the Mark II Escort is the Mark II Escort. Yes, okay, you've got RS 2000s, RS 1800s, whatever, but it's the Mark II Escort. Whereas the Fiestas, there have been different shells, different variants, different makes, different models, excuse me. Yes, there are lots of Fiestas, but they're different tweaks of Fiestas.
That's a very good point, actually. It's a Fiesta name, isn't it? Different shell, different body, different layout. So yeah, actually, I would still say then you could say the same about Imprezas and Evos. I was about to say the same thing, but I think the Mark II Escort will, I think if you actually look, will be the most popular model of rally car ever.
Lots of local drivers. Alidwin Morgans we saw with Daniel Petrie in car 53. 54 we've just seen Yvonne Richards and Daniel Jones, and Adwell Parry and Robbie Sanford. This should be 55. Actually, no, that's not an Impreza. Excuse me, Jonathan Davis.
There's lots of, you see Peugeot 205s and maybe 106s of the days gone by. Now moving into the 207. I think there's just the one 207 in the rally, so more variety, even more so.
Could be a 205 through next, actually, if I was not really coming down towards us. No, my point being, lots of Welsh names: Alidwin, Irfon, Arwell, Jonathan, potential Jonathan Davis that we just saw. Yeah, so lots of locals coming out maybe on this event. Not registered with Protyre, but clearly out to see what they can do in amongst the RC and Protyre events. Indeed, here's the 205 I know. Still falling foul though. I was going to say how nicely driven it was around the hairpin. Just being caught out by the second hairpin, that uphill hairpin left. 57, James Nichols and David Allman in the 205 GTI.
Again, it seems to be declining numbers now. You know, not so many years back there would be 10s and 20s of 205s on national rallies. So it's, I guess, an age thing. But yeah, still good to see them out there.
Okay, we talked about it yesterday when we talked about your kit car. The single make championships. and the popularity, and they got people into rallying back in the day, whether it was the KAs, whether it was the Ladas, whatever it was, it formed a cheap-ish way to get into rallying. There really hasn't been anything like that for a while now.
No, there hasn't, not in the UK. I mean, you just have to look at France. You know, the Clio Rally 4 or Rally 5 Championship, there's 20 or 30 cars per rally. But it's economy of scale, I guess. It was stepping from earlier, so obviously it's no visible issues after the finish.
58, Jonathan Stepney and Alan Davis, another Protyre competitor in the Clio. Yeah, and also, since you mentioned France, there's also Germany with the Opel Adam. They had quite a very successful one-make series that used to run around at the back of Rally Deutschland.
That's it, and they had a huge number of those cars. I think they were, I say, relatively inexpensive. They were probably about £25,000 with the exchange, between £25,000 and £30,000. So sounds a lot of money, but for a brand new car, you know, the base car has got to be most of that. But as we know, we've spoken about Fiestas. We've had a number of one-make Fiesta series over here, and the JWRC now still runs one Fiesta, but yeah, there's nothing in the UK right now, which is a shame. I think it's something we need to look at. No matter what the car is, it just brings close competition, doesn't it? And that's what everyone ultimately wants to see and wants to be part of.
Well held. 59 Richard Williams making a fairly spectacular entry into shot.
That's what we said, didn't we? Here we go, another road rally boy, I would suggest.
Potentially knows these roads because he didn't get caught out.
He didn't. That was very good, very neat. Well, I say very neat. A big slide, but you know, all seemed in control. And like I said, there could be some surprises as we get down the field.
Also, you know, this is the chance. I mentioned a few times that, you know, the Welsh drivers or the local drivers that are out this weekend, potentially collecting some fairly decent scalps because of their knowledge. They've grown up competing on these stages, often in the middle of the night, you know, off maps. I mean, I only ever did one night event, and it scared me rigid, to be honest, because we were running at the back of the field. We were OTL at the end of it, and so we retired, and I vowed then never again to do a night event.
There's something very different. I've never done one myself. They do look an incredible challenge. You know, one of the big things being getting back home for breakfast or back to the finish for a breakfast. It's a very different kettle of fish. Very, obviously a navigational event, but obviously the driving skill behind that. On roads like this, and like you say, in a pitch black, just off a map, it's a whole different level of skill.
I enjoy. Now this is Phil Mills. We talked about this car, brand new. It's a Mark 1 Escort, but it was finished only a matter of days ago. Phil Mills driving, sawing away at the wheel, and it's his son Iwan co-driving. Oh, Phil. I'm not going to take the mickey out of you on Facebook for that at all. Okay, spectator power is needed. Next car is coming down the hill towards us. Phil finally on his way again. Next car's coming up towards us. 61, Kerry Jones and Dylan Bargate. Making it look effortless.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? But I say they're used to these roads. Yeah, nothing to take away from the drivers. Obviously, very, very skillful to keep something out on the road like this. So, yeah, impressive.
Also, what I was going to talk about when we saw Phil, he's actually running a sustainable fuel. So that car, and also I think the Ginetta, are running a kind of sustainable rally fuel, which is being marketed by Carless, which is, of course, a well-known name in rally fuels. But those two cars running that this weekend as part of the event's push to be more sustainable. And I think, whatever you may think of it, we as a sport have got to be moving in that direction because of the potential, you know, the visibility of the sport, and people complaining that it's not that green.
You're absolutely right, and there's a lot that can be done. It's not just using sustainable fuels or it's the wider picture. You know, there's the whole thing, what you can do to be a bit more eco-friendly, to look after the environment a bit better. I know the rally itself is teamed up with Carbon Positive Motorsport for this event, on the offsetting. I think I'll dig out the number in a second. A huge amount of carbon into reforestation, rewilding projects, all UK-based tree plantings. So, you know, there's all these things we can do to help the environment. It's not necessarily just planting trees and forgetting. It's restoring the environment through all different projects, and we need to be doing these things. So there's no reason why not.
No. And also it's yet another example of the event organisers on this event looking at the bigger picture. We talked as we drove through the stage about the big spectator area, the fan zone. It's really well laid out. There was a PA system, I think there was catering there, and it was nice and easy and it was good visibility. And they'd also been up there trimming the grass out of the way so people can have a good view. It's all these little things that just make this event stand out as being, it is realistic that they could get into the European Championship.
I was just about to say, it's all about the end goal and the aspiration. To get into the European Championship, the event would bring a whole load more people to the area, and that's what we want, right? More people attracted to the sport, more people attracted to the area. We just go back to the previous point. So the 100,000 kilograms of offsetting is what the event is planned to do through carbon policy of this event. So a huge amount. So that will obviously no doubt have an impact.
Let's just recap on the last couple of cars. You just saw 63, Grant Shand and Ginny Shand in an Escort, making it look effortless. Not so. Previous car was 62, Sean Jones and Nathan Summers in an Astra, and this should be 64. Jeff Roberts and Jack Bowen, another Protyre crew. An Escort RS 1800. Indeed, the Protyre sticker on the windscreen. Keeping an eye on the times, don't you worry, in terms of overall, but things very tight at the top of Protyre at the moment, and obviously, as we keep saying, it's down to a two-horse race for the overall title, but we will also be hopefully keeping an eye on the class positions to get an idea of who's doing what. But after stage 2, Matt, what's the position?
So after stage 2, Oshan is leading by... I'll have to check that, but in the Protyre. Okay. So from a Protyre point of view, so Callum Black second overall in the rally and therefore leading the Protyre. James Ford third overall in the rally and he gets then second in the championship. Gary Pearson fourth, Steve Wood fifth, James Williams sixth, Melvin? Marion Evans seventh, and Neil Roskell in eighth overall. So all still very close, and the times are now just dropping through the third stage. So 17 miles so far, one car through in 13 minutes. So that's some going. So yeah, so there you go. James Williams seems to have dropped 15 seconds in the to over 17 miles to Oshan. So not even a second a mile.
Matthew Curzon and Gareth Short in another Escort, and that's a familiar surname, both for me personally, as I think that is John Curzon's son. I used to work with John at the BBC many years ago. John's now retired. Matthew, I think, continuing the Curzon family tradition of rallying. Pat, I think, was long co-driver of the another car running out of position, Tim Johnson and Roger Burkill in the Honda Civic, car 90, but running 67th on the road. So we've seen Matthew Curzon, we've seen car 90 come through, should be the Opel Corsa of another Protyre competitor, Nicky Cowperthwaite, with Helen Hall coming through next. As Matt's keeping an eye on the timing screens. But also, producer, he's just pulling a face. Go on.
So the times for stage 3. So Oshan has come through with a 13:07. James came with a 13:22. But then Marion has now come through with a 12:58. So I think that puncture has really riled them up in there. The comeback is on there, it looks like.
And also, producer Wayne was just telling us that there's a picture of James, I think, missing a light. Or maybe he was watching he was multitasking and watching the live stream from stage 3. Concentrate, Wayne. And James was missing a light, so it may well be that he's thumped something as well as having the spin here.
The story to tell. It'll be good to catch up with them and see what happened. Nicky Cowperthwaite and Helen Hall in the Corsa, car 67.
1:27. As I said, another Protyre competitor. Evans faster than Price by 9 seconds on the WhatsApp group. So Marion Evans, bit between his teeth after that puncture that we saw him with earlier on, and taken 9 off in 17 miles. He's got that 17-miler to do again this afternoon, and this one, and the 5-miler. So something like 27 miles in the afternoon loop. That time back if that's the pace he keeps up.
That's it, and like we said, look at these conditions. I still think it's absolutely. You can see how easy it is just to lose a handful of seconds, if not 30. You know, just with a small error. So Callum Black, our first of our Protyre runners, now through with a 13:12. So it was what 5 slower than Oshan. So good pace.
Darwin Evans and Ivan Devine in a Mark II, again getting the second hairpin wrong, and it did seem as he went into it that he just went in too quickly, whether it was a note error, just expecting a little bit further before that corner tightened up on him. But
I can't see down there what's going
spot
on.
this
No
way.
clue.
Although to be fair, as we mentioned earlier, it's well known in these parts. And when anybody was saying to us last night, so where are you going to go on stage 2? And we said, oh, the hairpins. Ah, yeah, we know the hairpins. So locally, this is an area well known in rallying terms, and well known also potentially for catching people out. Although we did say coming down the hill towards us from that slot right onto the gravel. I think it was you that was saying in the car as we were coming down, in the van as we were coming down, that this was well known as potentially an area where people went straight off, and sure enough at the bottom of the hill there were all the hay bales.
That's it. It's a downhill under the trees. You can see how greasy it was, and there's nothing really at the end before you're into a ditch there. So again, great work by the organisers highlighting these things with some bales, some caution boards. You know, we all want to see the competitors get through. We want close competition. So putting these mitigating factors in place is great to see, actually.
Who's this then? Mailer Davis, potentially, car 69. Mailer and Dylan Thomas. Some more good Welsh names. Mailer just tiptoeing his way in. Got away with that, possibly got it onto the grass, but kept going. Oh, go on. How much has James dropped?
So through stage 3, so to put into Callum did a 13:12 and James falls in a 13:39. So that looks like maybe there is a story. So that leaves, still doesn't change the championship overall yet, but we're still waiting for Steve Wood and Neil Roskell to come through. There should be the next 2, so we'll keep an eye out.
We were talking about all sorts of permutations about dropping score and all the rest of it, but at the moment Callum is doing exactly what he needs to do.
That's it. The simple way to look at it is like if either driver won both of the days, they take the championship. So and good effort.
This is exactly what we were talking about, coming down the hill, and he's thumped the bales coming down the hill towards us.
He has, but he did his job there, kept them on the road, and a big dent in the rear quarter, but they're still going. So.
Avion Thomas and Derry Davis, that is, in the Mark 1 RS2000. They'll be kicking themselves for just getting it wrong coming down the trees. But you also wonder, you know, if people have dragged out some muck coming down the hill, it's going to be even worse. If they got onto the loose stuff, then they're going to be into the bales.
That's it. Like we say, as the stage ever evolving, you know, with more mud being pulled out. But you can see, even with the guys that are going off just here, that it's a little easier to get back on now. As the sun's out, it's drying, so all this wet mud we pulled out. By the time it's the second run, and I'll be dry. So it's changed with every single car. And yeah, I think the second pass is going to be just as, if not as tricky as the first.
Actually, we've got the long straw, if you know what I mean, because Paul's on the long one, which is the 17-miler, which is the real kind of sting in the tail of this loop. And you kind of wonder what state the cars are going to be in, what state the drivers are going to be in at the end of that long one.
That's it. We're just looking at the times, you know, but between 13 and 14 minutes so far. So that's a lot of driving time to be flat out for that amount of time. I know that particular piece of road is fantastic, but it also very hard work, very fast stage. So yeah, I can imagine when they get to the end, they'll be feeling that.
It's also quite, I don't know whether it's deliberate from the organisers, obviously because they've only got a limit on what roads they can use, but you're not really getting into a rhythm. It's short stage, long stage.
That's it, and that's why you've got to try and get into it. So, you know, like with Marion getting that puncture, it could put you onto the back foot, but obviously we're looking at the times, maybe not. And it's just about getting that rhythm going, because 17 miles it's a long rally stage, especially in these sorts of roads. But two cars relatively close here now. Mark.
Yep.
71 quickly followed by
72.
Car 72, would you look at that?
72 is Malcolm Atherton catching Miguel and Jones. 0.3 miles, in fact less than that, because we're a couple hundred yards and he's undoing all that good work. That's the commentator's curse for you.
Absolutely, but there we see, you know, you can make all that time in just a few seconds and we drop just like that. Back into the times from the third one. So Neil has done a 13:53, so he's dropped 4:31 seconds there to Callum.
So if Paul Morris and Donna or Paul Wakely are watching the live stream, lots of stories for you guys to pick up at service at lunchtime. And somebody else thumping the bales by the sounds of it. Big dent in the driver's door. So 73 Phil Jones and Ryan Griffiths. So from the evidence from those two cars, they're going off on the driver's side, so I'm guessing he's throwing it in and sliding so that the driver's side is making contact with the bales, because the bales, as you come down the hill, are effectively right in front of you to stop you going off into some trees, but just off the road.
That's it, and I think when you're coming down that hill, you can see the bales, so you don't want to go forward first, because you then into all sorts of problems. So protect the radiator, protect the engine. Hopefully, like simply the escorts have shown, sort of little nudge of the bale, and you're back onto the road if it's not front forward. So a good thing to do, but yeah, like I say, now needs to find a door from Mark to escort. Well, you can hear the crowds from here. It's obviously the local superstars coming. Who's this?
It's the biggest cheer we've heard so far.
It really is.
It's like a Sunday. 74 this could be.
Dare I say, someone who grew up in the road rally territory in the lanes, maybe just by looking at that.
Well, the way he went through, plus the cheer, would suspect that he's quite local. David Williams, that is, in the Sunbeam. Another one of those cars that you used to see a lot of, and now they're quite rare.
They are, like you say, you really don't see many of them. There's obviously all the Mark II escorts, but from in the historic point of historic world, it's nice to see something a little bit different. And yeah, a bit of variety.
75, I think this should be Colin Davis and Lucy Wilding in another escort.
R2000
With the droop snoots, yeah.
You don't see many of them anymore. I think lots of Mark II escorts, but the first droop snoot.
You used to see a lot of the droop snoots on road rallies, so I wonder.
There we go. You see, you put that together and caught out a little bit on the grass there, but not too much time lost again. But yeah, again, a bit more variety, and they do look good, don't they?
Some of them in lovely condition. Okay, I know they'll have been possibly reshelled or whatever over the years, but you do look up close at them at service parts, and they are, some of them at least, absolutely lovely. And the fact that they win, you know, best turned out car or whatever, they've got life left in them.
That's it. I think it feels pride and joy at the end of the day. And talk about variety in cars. So we spoke before at One Make Series. So we've got a Clio, what would be a Rally 5 car, I believe. So this is what the One Make Series in France is using. So like you say, they see 25, 30 of these on each of their rounds. 30 to 40,000 pounds, I believe, will buy you a brand new car. So again, quite a big number, but actually in reality for what you get, that, you know, the base car will be £20,000 of that. So it's something that I think we really need to look into in the UK. But it's about what you get at the end of it, isn't it? You know, what do we go rallying for? And I think it's for a lot of people, it's the enjoyment as well as the competition. So it's about getting the balance right. So, but no, I absolutely think it'd be good to see a one make of some description in the UK.
But I also have to ask, it's down on the entry as Motorsport Ireland Rally Academy. So what are the Irish doing that perhaps we should be doing to nurture our talent?
So they set up this Rally Academy it's been going a few years now. It seems to be steady in pace. So you've got a few guys in WRC2, a few guys then in the BRC and the Irish tar and gravel. And speaking to some of at the Ulster last weekend, they're getting drivers going out to do the events, getting the experience. And there's a bit of back in there. Obviously that goes a long way, the funding. But you know, the Motorsport UK does have the academy, and there's some guys who are through, you know, Elvin's come through the academy, some of the co-drivers. So I think it's just the balance of the funding, the exposure. Obviously needs both, but we've got some very talented guys coming through, so hopefully they can get the support and carry on out there.
Another car running out of position, further up the order than we were expecting. Mal Boyd and Harry Stubbs, another of the Protyre crews in an Escort. Yeah, the French have also been very good at nurturing their young talent. The FFSA, their equivalent of Motorsport UK, have had a young talent scheme for many, many years, and they've picked up on the likes of, what was his name? Sebastian Loeb. Whatever happened to him?
Amazing. Look at that. Superb. Yeah, Sebastian, I think he did all right rallying, didn't he? No, but you're right. These talents come through. I think there is a contractual side through the FFSA, but it obviously works.
That was kind of inevitable, wasn't it? James Evans and Mark Hughes in another Mark II, just struggling to get underway again from the slippy side of the left-hand hairpin. Yeah, the Finns have also, since we're on the topic, the French, the Irish, the Finns, they do it slightly differently. There's a guy called Timo Joki in Finland, who's, gosh, I don't know how old he is now, but he is Mr. Fixer, because he talks to the likes of the teams, the sponsors, the drivers come to him, they sign over potential future earnings. He then puts them together, he's the matchmaker, if you like, puts them together with a sponsor, with a team in a competitive car, and then when, not if, because he's very careful who he picks, when they get a works drive, then they pay him back, so he gets a percentage of whatever they earn. And that's a well-proven, if slightly different way of funding the stars of the future.
And it's a good way it proves to be popular, and maybe we have a few more higher profile events in the UK, it starts to get that emphasis, should I say, back on rallying, and maybe then you build the support, you build the funding, and then you start on that route. It all comes down to that funding thing at the end of the day.
77 Mike Pugsley and Mark Clatworthy. I didn't have them down as Protyre entrants, but there's very definitely a Protyre sticker on that car. Yeah, it's different ways of achieving the same aim, but we know how difficult it is to find sponsors. So if somebody comes to you and says, look, here's the car, I've already got you a sponsor, it's very attractive.
Absolutely, and I think, like I say, through Motorsport UK Academy and other options, I think we've got some really talented drivers. So there is also the Co-Driver Academy headed by Paul Spoon and Nicky Motorsport UK, who are bringing on some really enthusiastic and good guys and girls. So I think there's probably a few out on it this weekend, but yeah, the more we can do to get people out there, the better, really.
Somebody else having clattered the barrier, I think. Yeah. Has he thumped the... Oh, he's gone... Has he gone straight on, Wayne? Ah, okay. So, exactly what we were discussing. 78 we just saw go through, Aaron Evans and Donald James in an Escort. And I don't know who this is, but the marshals and spectators are running down. This is exactly what Matt and I were talking about a few minutes ago, where cars coming down the hill into that zone that the organisers had prepared with the straw bales, and we can just coming down onto the gravel. Marshals are now there, and I think the car may well have just gone off the road, avoiding the trees there.
Probably hit the bales out the way now as well.
Oh yeah, good point. One of the spectators making the point that he may well have nudged the bales out of the way. Now, is there room for the next competitor to get past? Oh, coming in backwards. We may have a bit of an issue now. So hopefully a marshal can go just and warn them as they come down that hill, which I'm not sure how steep it looks on the video, because that does have a tendency to flatten things out. But it is quite a steep hill, and we know that there's gravel on it. There's certainly gravel at the top. There is enough room for cars to get past, judging by the fact that 81, another of the Motorsport Ireland Academy cars, the R2 of, okay, how do you pronounce that? Oif? Raftery? A Ronan Comerford? Someone will tell me.
Jody McBride's actually co-driving.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, no, so,
Oh, yes, it is.
From years gone by. Was it Desi Nut for years and years with Geraldine McBride in the yellow Porsche? Was it?
Blimey.
See, my anorak it is coming out there. You see.
You're the one that said, I'm the voice of your childhood. You are older than you look.
I don't know how to take that actually.
That's me getting my own back. There's room to get through by the looks of things. Jeff Glover and Keith Barker, this should be, in the rear-wheel drive Aston Mark III. Car 82, another of the Protyre competitors. Really, really well turned out car. That's already, I think, won the best presented car once, I think earlier this year, from memory. And Jeff just picking his way. I'm not sure who it is that's stopped at the bottom of the hill, but there's enough room to get through. Just 83, Martin Rossiter and Ian Davis potentially. Nicely done. Avoided the trap set by the hairpin. You know, we've talked about sponsorship, and the car obviously there had Shell oils all over it. But sometimes you get drivers who maybe think outside the box, or have maybe got connections in their own business with a sponsor that you might not necessarily think of. I'm thinking potentially people like Penny Mallory years ago, who did the deal with Wash and Go shampoo and did quite nicely out of it. And here we are many years later still talking about it. So sometimes thinking slightly differently about sponsorship might get you somewhere.
That's it, absolutely. And you know, you've got to think about it's all about what people want out of it at the end of the day. It's exposure, maybe it's coming to events, maybe. But you know, we talk about, well, you look years gone by, Martini. You know, you always think of these iconic cars. Obviously, the Subaru 555, of course, but
Andrew's Heat for Hire.
There we go. Yeah, see, there's all these brands where you see and you link it to rallying, and it's getting that link in the first place and getting that sort of the visual and the message out there. They can carry on for years. So it's a little bit outside the box thinking, a little bit of interest, see what you can provide, and yeah, it is an attractive proposition to a sponsor at the end of the day.
They may have an existing relationship with Rally, or they may be completely new. 84, that is, Ricky Reynolds and Evan Jenkins. Okay, go for it.
In the Protyre overall after stage 3, so Callum and Jack are leading by 29.6 seconds over James. So James Ford and Neil Shanks there, who is 35 seconds ahead of Neil Roskell and Andrew Ruffhead. So at the championship at the moment, it's looking like it's Callum's way, but I haven't even had half the day yet.
And there's another day tomorrow.
Absolutely. So another 5 stages this afternoon, the same loop again, and then the 2 in the town centre. So I still think, yes, we've got the leaderboard as it is, but I still think it's all to play for.
You know what? I'm going to run out of hands here. If I give you the entry list, I'm now going to fish my phone out. And today is very much brought to you by satellite, because we're in a valley, and you could suddenly, we were talking about this earlier, we can suddenly go from a couple of bars of 5G to nothing. It's one of those locations. So let me have a quick look at Facebook, and let me have a quick look to see if there are any questions that we need to be answering. Where are we? This looks like us. Yeah, that looks like us. So what are people saying? Oh, loving it from New Zealand. Hello, Darren. Bringing back memories of North Wales rallies in the 60s. Doesn't it, Joe? So 86 has caught 85. Ian Jarvis and Paul Train in an unfortunately just getting caught up on the first part of the sequence.
That's it. They're quite a long car when you look at it in this environment. So yeah, if you don't quite get it turned in, then yeah, bit of a 3-point turn there. But yeah, they were quickly catching Andrew Davis and Andrew Rees in it. Another one of Dylan Davis's Subaru. So we saw Dylan before in his Escort, and he's got another couple of cars out this weekend on hire.
There's quite a few teams actually with several cars, and I don't mean that as running a couple of cars. Like the 3 Citroens were posed for a picture outside their service area yesterday, and they looked lovely because they're all the same. And okay, one's right-hand drive, which is Steve Wood, but the 4 Polo R5s from Melvin Evans were lined up. It's pretty impressive, and it kind of, I don't know, raises the game. It kind of puts the pressure on others to go, actually, let's put a bit of thought into our livery or our hospitality or whatever.
Yeah, it does. And I say it raises the image of the sport as well. It does look good. These guys are, like I say, arguably the best drivers in the country with the best machinery. So it's got to look the part as well. Talking about looking the part, Super 1600 car. Here we were talking about kit cars earlier. So memories of Niall McShay in the Saxo Super 1600, very similar to that one actually. And what year would that been? 98, 99?
Let's ask the collective hive a question. That was a number plate that said LAD. Larton Auto Developments. Did they run Saxos? I remember them running Talbot Sambas, but then I'm much older than you, as that look on your face suggests. Thanks. So did they run, or is that just purely coincidence, and has it no connection whatsoever with LAD? Anyway, who'll know? I'm sure the collective mind. You're excited now. I know what's coming.
We've got a micro kit car, the one that everyone's here to see, of course.
If you say so.
Yeah, like hopefully this time next year there'll be another one, but this is a very
bright yellow one.
You won't miss it, but this is a very nice example of getting prices micro here.
You'd have got yours round there in one.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really easy to say that stood up here, isn't it? So
far too easy, especially for me who's never driven on the event. I was more than happy being on the co-driver's side.
So this time next year, if we have a role reversal, if we're down there in the car, you can remind me of that.
Sorry, is that an invitation for me to co-drive for you?
Absolutely. You said you were go stage rally, so yeah.
I do hope my wife isn't watching. Here we go, Neil James. You see, you ask and they deliver. It's fantastic. Neil James, Ron Beecroft did Wexford 86 in an LAD Samba. See, I was right, LAD did the Sambas. But the question that we still need answering, thank you, Neil, the question that we still need answering, did they do Saxos?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Too young, that's the problem.
Yes, I am. No, it is. I think that Niall McShay in the Saxo 98, 99 would have been, or was it even after that? Who are the?
So who ran that? See, if it was LAD, then we've now squared the circle.
We have. I believe it was the French team.
That doesn't narrow it down. What, Citroen Sport?
It might well have been.
Okay.
I remember being on French registration, but
You see, all the Citroens are on French registrations, and there's also somebody was trying to explain why the Polos are on German. No, yeah, you're nodding. So it's German registration. There's a reason, and I can't remember what it was.
neither can I. I know there's some now, so you see some of like Melvin's car, for example, on the UK plate now as well. Some are on the German plate, and I think. Yeah, most of the cars are still on the German plate, so there is a reason, and maybe that's one to find out ready for this afternoon.
Ah, Neil, now you're talking. Brian Davis. I was with Brian Davis in the Cortina. If it's the Brian Davis I'm thinking of, the flying postman from Swansea, sadly no longer with us. Neil, I think I know who you're talking about. What an absolute gentleman he was. He had a Toyota Corolla in the last few years, and he was competing pretty much up until the last couple of years before he passed away. But yeah, absolute gentleman. Thank you, Neil. Thank you for your comment. Do keep an eye on the comments on our Facebook feeds. And as I mentioned earlier on, whoop, slightly sideways Darien. No, that's a Lotus. That's not a Darien.
Was this your car that had the bonnet up after the first stage? No, I don't think it was.
92.
So again, bit of variety, something else. I mean, I imagine on dry tarmac, one of those is phenomenally quick, but there's just succumbed to the grass hair on the outside of this hairpin.
Lotus Elise, indeed. Sorry, that was my eagerness to say, oh yeah, it's a Lotus Elise. We haven't seen either of the... Oh, what perfect timing. I was about to say we haven't seen the Gilberts yet. Here's the first of them.
I've never seen one before, not even let alone a road car or a rally car. That's great.
Built in Wales, and in fact the two of them are running together, two brothers. So 93 that was Chris Jones and Richard Evans in the Invader. Now the next one, 94, is Chris's brother Mark with Tom Rendell alongside in a Gilburn Genie. Now Gilburns are rare. You occasionally see Invaders. I don't think I've ever seen a Gilburn Genie on a stage. They also, and he's glazed over at this point, I'm really sorry, Matt, they also made an estate, which is like rocking horse poo. It's really, really, really rare. You do sometimes see them in car museums and things, but built in Wales. So Wales did at one point, long before the likes of Aston Martin, Wales did have a car industry, very much home built, and it was, if I remember correctly, Gilburn came from the Christian names of the two guys who founded it, something like Gilbert and Bernard, which there's your answer. You see, I'm full of, there it is, there's the other one. I must confess, I did a bit of research last night, because as we were leaving the ceremonial start, they were lined up to go in, and I just went, what's the difference between the two? And he started to explain about the engines and things, and the marshal got him to move on because they were blocking the control. So I did try and do some research. One, I think he said, had Millington possibly, or I may be completely wrong. Anyway. But yeah, the two little Gilburns. This is the Ginetta. We talked earlier on, Nick Hurd and Ollie Mack.
These ones running the sustainable fuel as well.
This is the second one, yeah.
I mean, it's a great thing, isn't it? You know, if we can use something a bit more sustainable and carry on rallying the way we knew it, then superb. It's just what we want. So, yeah, I mean, a Ginetta is again an interesting rally car. There was the car in the forest some years ago, wasn't it? In the 2000s, the race car that was converted, but you don't see many. It's
and yet they've had race series for Ginettas of various flavours over the years. So Ginetta have worked out that Motorsport works for them, but not rallying for some reason, or certainly not currently.
No, that's it. And you know, maybe I would suggest a well-sorted car with the weight distribution, or the overall weight, the power to weight, everything would actually make a competitive rally car. So, or particularly on tarmac, maybe not in the forest so much, but limited suspension travel. Although I don't know that for a fact. That's just a bit of an observation. So, yes, surprised we don't see more of them.
So Ginetta G40, which we've seen a couple of times this year. Nick Hurd and Oliver Matheson, as Matt was saying, is running the sustainable rally fuel, as is Phil Mills in the Mark 1 Escort, car 60, as a bit of a trial, judging from what the press release was saying earlier on in the year. Now we talked about this earlier on, didn't we? This isn't a kit car, is it?
Rear-wheel drive Mark 3 Escort. So again, we spoke about the different models of Escort before. Now we have a Mark 3.
Rear-wheel drive Mark 3, because these were front-wheel drive road cars.
They were, so yeah, converted to rear-wheel drive. Something different.
The conversation last night, in case you were wondering, viewer, was that we talked about my interview with Gwyndav when he rolled on the Network Q rally, as it was, at Chatsworth back in '96, when he hit the tree stump and rolled, as did Robbie Head in the Megane, and that car is still around, I think, as it was the Quick Fit car.
Yes, it was.
On the spot now, sorry.
You have. I think the registration's certainly still around. I think most of the cars are in one way, shape or form, but we grew up watching those big cars and something we always love seeing.
You could see that going wide. 88, Keith Daniels and Andrew Millington in the Vauxhall Corsa, car 88. If you're just joining us, by the way, we've been on an absolutely cracking location at the end, or towards the end of stage 2 on Rally Ceredigion 2023. This today is the penultimate round of the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. Final round is tomorrow, so this weekend a double header, so each day scores separate points, and then tomorrow we will find out who is the new Protyre champion, Steve Wood. This is his last weekend as the reigning Protyre champion. He is out in a right-hand drive Citroen Rally 2 car, but has had a bit of a mixed year, unfortunately, has Steve, and so he's not in the championship battle, which is now a two-way affair between Callum Black and Neil Roskell. And Neil, although he leads the championship currently, and Callum is something like 4th overall, because of the consistency that Neil has had during the year, and he's been banging in sort of 2nd, 3rd, 4th places, he doesn't have many scores to drop, whereas Callum has had a DNF and I think he missed a round or two, and so he potentially stands to score an absolute shed load of points this weekend. So we'll know who is the winner of the title tomorrow evening in Aberystwyth, as we see Paul Jenkins and Lucy Guttridge, car 97. Nice and straightforward. That looked easy.
It did. I think Paul's again from the road rallies, or certainly done quite a few closed road stage rallies in more recent times. So yeah, it's that experience and knowledge of this type of road, isn't it? So it really shows when you stood here stateside.
Just to point out, we have 2 live streams currently running on social media. We are on stage 2. That is Mark James and Matthew Jackson. On stage 3, our colleagues Paul Woodford and Hugh Hunter, and in fact Hugh was my... Ooh, that was drive shaft. Yeah, that's transmission. So I don't think producer Wayne can see where he is, but he's pulled up the other side of the bush.
No, I can't see him.
So car 98, Gareth Parry and Lewis Griffiths in the 205 Peugeot pulling up, and marshals and spectators just trying to get the car away from the position that they're in. Next car, however, is already making its way towards us, which is 99, it should be, 206 of Gary Olrenshaw, excuse me, and Rhys Williams. Drive just scrabbling for grip around the hairpin. Shaft that's gone because there was a big bang and a bit of wheel spin and nothing else. So car 100 it should be then. Last car on the road is car 112, just to let you know. And we still have, for me, we talked about this earlier on, where I like the battles going on obviously at the head of the field and the variety of cars getting through. For me, I have to say the Land Rovers are some of the highlights, and we've got them to come.
we have, you know, the pace that these guys have is impressive. The old defenders, so the army folk, they're here for the fun and the spirit of rallying, you know, and it's great to see. I did the track run a few years ago. We were running just in front of them on the road, and they came up to us the first control and was like, "Get your turret ready. If your turret's out and you're stuck, we'll pull you out. Don't worry about it." And great camaraderie, great guys.
The car 100 Mark 1S. Just a little bit too enthusiastic coming out of the hairpin, so another spin. That noise you hear in the background, incidentally, we've got a helicopter or possibly two parked up on the hill behind us. So if you're wondering what the roaring jet engine noise is, then there'll be a helicopter taking off by the sounds of it within the next stop. In fact, there he goes. We've come to the conclusion that's the way to go rally spectator.
It is. There's none of this waiting around, long road sections, in and out. That's the way to do it.
101, the little Suzuki Swift with Chris Evans and Neil Spires. Ooh, that doesn't smell good.
That's a very clutchy smell, is that? I think maybe trying to just edge it around there has got that clutch quite warm.
These little two-wheel drive cars just struggling as they go around this section. We are, I've mentioned it before, we're probably a couple of hundred yards away from the end of the stage, stage 2. Oh yeah, that is proper stinking, that is, as they say. So the cars from us, they go up to a third hairpin right, and then a little run along a plateau at the top of the hill just before where the helicopter was parked up to the stage finish. That's where we'll be heading. Probably in about 10 or 15 minutes time. We'll be then driving around to another of the junctions in the stage, which we'll bring you as stage 5 this afternoon. Do keep an eye on our social media feeds for that. But we still have around 10 cars or so. This is car 102, Peugeot 206 of Jonathan Davis and Dylan Davis. Picking their way around that second hairpin. But again, just scrabbling. This stage, you know, particularly that climb we talked about earlier that we came through on the van when we drove through the stage, that was a big old climb.
It was, and if you think about it now, if there's some mud dragged out and the changeable grip, it's going to be difficult up there. It was, yeah, we can just see it just down here, but it's drying as well now, so it, like, with another long to reach the next one of the cars, so it's going to be different. It's going to be different this afternoon.
The helicopter spectators have decided they've had enough. There's the second one going.
Yeah, enough now before they head out for a squad of lunch and then back out, I guess, for this afternoon.
103, another Protyre competitor, Andy Scott and Ian Robertson in the Mark II. Showing everyone how it should be done. Very nicely done. It's flying back down the valley towards Aberystwyth. There's the second of the helicopters that was parked up with us. Did you say? No, somebody said there were something like 4 helicopters on the event. So there was 1 last year. Does that mean that, you know, this event is growing in all sorts of ways? One person I did expect to see in a helicopter was Malcolm Wilson. I'm not even sure if he's around today. I know Matthew is going to be doing demonstration runs in the Rally 1 Puma around the streets of Aberystwyth tonight. So if you're in the area, stage starts at 6:30, but Matthew will be doing runs probably, we think, from about 5:40, 5:45 around the streets of Aberystwyth. And then we go live with stage 7, the penultimate stage of the day, at 6:30. And then the crews, only a little half-mile stage, the crews then come back around and do it a second time. Was it about slow and steady wins the race? 105, Rob Richards and Teresa Butler, and a little 106 Peugeot. 2T, go.
1 litre turbo, M Sport built, left-hand drive, sequential gearbox, Riga dampers. I had one last year, so
You see, little twinkle in your eye.
absolutely a great piece of kit. You know, like I say before, I'd built up over the years in the original Micro. Had a Subaru for a bit of time, then went into the Fiesta, and honestly, the step up from everything from before, just with the modern technology and how the car's built, like the chassis, just gives you so much confidence. They are a really, really good little car, actually.
And you also have to say that, having seen it the other side, because I've worked in touring cars now for a few years, the business side of motorsport has to make sense. And so the TCR concept, which is what we do in touring cars, makes sense because you've got manufacturers building the cars, customer racing then runs them. Malcolm at M Sport has got it pretty much bang on. The number of Fiestas, the number of cars, rebuilds, parts, it makes business sense for him as well as sporting sense.
Yeah, it does, and I said they're always a good car. You know, I think M Sport predominantly always first at the door when the new construct or the category of cars are announced, and they're always a good car. I think a lot of the parts from those Fiesta now are based out of Poland, so obviously Brexit had a bit of an impact on that, but overall, you know, they're not too bad in sourcing parts, and there's a lot of them around now, so there is a lot of parts around, and you know, a lot of people know where to source the bits from. The parts, the standard road bits there, and it's a lot of the panels are now a lot cheaper because they're 2015 cars, so you can start to pick them up in scrapyard, so it now makes a lot more sense for the more, should I say, clubman or serious enthusiasts to run, because it's now just a lot easier.
You know, 108 went past us while we were chatting, John Rossiter and the Estin Pin, and that was the kind of car my brother had. He had a Mark II Escort, he had a 1.6 Escort gear with those square headlights and that kind of body. I mean, he had a gold one, whereas it wasn't that kind of colour, but that's the car that I remember kind of growing up with. And here comes the first of the Land Rovers. Good old... What were we saying? That didn't sound good.
But it's still fired up. Yep, it's had a spin.
He spun, no, that's what it was.
Had a spin and looks like it impacted something, but it's still fired up, so that's good to see. Horrible noise when you see that, so let's... he'll appear, hopefully...
Didn't make it that far.
The interview in a second.
There'll be 4 of these white Land Rover Defenders. They've been a staple part of British rallying for I don't know how many years, and as you said, they're more than happy to stop and pull people out of ditches, and they're not that bothered about their times. They're just out to have fun.
Noise.
That was front the audio. There's a little bit of greenery on the driver's side.
But considering the noise, that is, it shows you a Land Rover. There you go. That's why you have these things.
So 109 is the Army entry. Because there is, let's face it, a fair amount of rivalry. Ooh, the second, and he's into the trees. And spectators are running down. Does that mean we think that the stage might be stopped? So that's potentially the second of the UK Armed Forces rally team Defenders. Danny Hedges and Ben Hall. We saw George Martin and Jack Bean go through in the Army Defender, but in the past there have been Navy and Royal Air Force entered Defenders as well. He's done exactly what we were talking about, just coming down that steep hill, coming down towards the bales, locking up potentially on the gravel and going through the bales, and we think into the trees, Wayne? Through the trees. Oh, he's actually in the valley. Oh, that'll be interesting to get out. And not that much time, remember, because we've only got 2 more cars to come through, or this first running. There is the penultimate car just taking the slot right at the top of the hill. Hopefully the marshals and spectators will be slowing him as he comes down the hill to where his colleague went off.
Slow him down for Christ's sake. He's already going to. No, he's gone. He's gone.
Oh, right on the edge. Lots of squealing tyres, lots of into gravel. So we have 2 of the 3 Defenders off at the end of the stage, as the helicopter you can just hear behind me comes back to pick up some more passengers. This is a disappointing end to the stage. I've got to say, as I was saying to Matt, I always enjoy seeing the Defenders go through. So Will the final defender be pulling his two colleagues out, who think? Hold on a sec.
Well, we can see one of the crews out there, so that's good. It's never nice to see an accident. So.
And here comes the last one, coming down the hill. Please say he's going to be okay. Hopefully they're going to be slowing him, and potentially he's going to be pulling his colleagues out.
They should be fucking up the road sloppy.
Or not. At least he's going. Now, is he going to pull the others out? Because I think the second one, no, he's not. So much for camaraderie between the services, or is he is going to stop? Ah, well done. That was going to be a surprise if he was going to leave them there. So potentially, that should be car 112, the last car on the road. Benjamin Shackleton and Michael Hurley. And potentially they're going to go back up and get out, first of all, Keith Harvey and Josephine Harris in 111. And I think the other should be 110, Danny Hedges and Ben Hall. They're potentially too far off the road so yeah, he's going back up the hill, I think, to pull out the previous car. So a disappointing end to our coverage of stage 2, and indeed 112 is continuing. Presumably his colleagues have said no point in stopping, so the recovery guy, he's pulled up actually, so he's going to go back and help them. And so it's going to be the rally recovery guys, when they come through into the stage, that will recover both the other two Land Rovers. Spectators also making their way down to help as well. So I think that's probably where we'll leave things. Producer Wayne, we're trying to make eye contact with him as the marshals and also the spectators go down to try and help the... Oh, and in fact the bonnet is up now on 112 in the valley, and so problems for 3 out of the 4 UK Armed Forces Rally Team defenders. So a disappointing end then, a frustrating end for the defenders at the end of this stage. So stage 2 then, all done and dusted. If you're still watching the action, Paul Woodford is live on stage 3. We will be back with you this afternoon for stage 5. Join us for that a little bit later on. Paul will then have stage 6. Let's just look at timings. We'll be back on at about 2:45. Paul will be back on at 3:35, and then at 6:30 this evening we'll both, all being well, be back down in Aberystwyth for the town stage. But for now, from Matt, myself, producer Wayne and the rest of us on stage 2, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.